Hello, everyone. So, welcome and thank you for taking the time to listen. I thought I would say to you all that I am braving the shave on the 17th of November, which is not long now, just a week, and I am going to shave all of my hair off. Looks at itself. And that in itself is a reason to do it. I've always wanted to have a buzz cut. I have had a pixie cut, but not for a number of years. And I'm braving the shave for Macmillan. And I just thought I would go into some details about why. So, about at the beginning of lockdown, I met someone, was introduced to someone who had lung cancer, and they taught me so much. They died earlier on this year in May of 2023. And they taught me so much. They went from, while I knew them, they went from stage 3 to stage 4, from palliative to end of life. And when they went from palliative to end of life is really when our journey together began. So they would come to me on a regular basis and just want some relief from the ins and outs of being a cancer patient, of living with cancer, of people treating them differently because they have this disease, not knowing what to say, saying things like, well, everyone dies, this, that, and the other. And these are things which, living with a palliative condition, I myself, which is not cancer related, I can nevertheless relate to. So they taught me a lot about their journey, and I'm really doing it for them. Just to say to them, I remember the power of our connection. So we lived about 200 miles from each other, and we used to meet 2 or 3 times a week on Zoom. Energetically, we had a very strong connection, and I just held space for this person. And about about 14 months ago, I moved home. And I remember this was a time when they were moving from palliative to end of life. Things had metastasized further for them, and they were starting some palliative chemo. They wanted to alleviate some of their symptoms. And they were in 2 minds about this. They really were. They thought they'd give it a go, but they were scared and frightened. And there was a lot of PTSD involved because they had had chemo previously and it had been a very difficult experience for them. And I wasn't thinking about them. I wasn't doing anything to do with them. They were 200 miles away. And I sat down in my old house and it was completely empty. And I was doing some cleaning. And I sat on the bathroom floor. And I suddenly had an overwhelming feeling of them. And my arm felt like it was being taken. And I thought, this is strange. Oh, they've just sat down in their chair for chemo, and I can feel their fear. And I can feel the nurse prepping their arm. And I thought, wow, this is a bit strange. What can I do in this moment for them? And I wanted love to stand side by side with their fear. I wanted to hold their hand. I wanted to hold their other hand and be at the other side of them and say that while this was happening and while there was this fear, was also there to witness this fear and to stand for the light and in love and with compassion and with not understanding, just accepting of the moment. So I did that. I sat on the floor and I took my own hand. I sat on the floor and I took my own hand. And I just thought of all things that make me think of love. My dogs, the trees, the moment, being able to move, the wonderful treatment that I've received in the NHS, the nurses, the doctors. I just tried to find that loving balance within myself. And then after a few minutes, I came out of it, carried on with the rest of my day, and didn't think anything more of it. It was about, I didn't see them the next week because there were some side effects from the chemo. They had to go every 2 weeks. There were quite a lot of side effects and they really didn't feel up to anything. And I said, that's okay. This is your journey, your whatever. It doesn't stop me from, if you're consensual to it, from, sitting and holding you in a flame of love and peace in my heart. And I know that lots of people think, oh, there's nothing to do anything. But a couple of weeks later, they came back to me and they said, as I sat down in the chair for my first round of chemo, I had this overwhelming feeling of love and this overwhelming feeling of positivity. And that even though I was walking uphill, I could do it step by step. And even though we were trying it experimentally, because this was palliative and going to buy me some more time, and it was a question of balance for us, because the side effects of the chemo had to, not be outweighed. Not outweigh, rather, the negative, the effects of quality of life, of final stages of end of life. And they said, suddenly I was just like, I don't know what it was. I felt love. And even though I was frightened, I felt held. And I just felt as if all of you were there, because there's a group of us. And I just felt as if all of you were there. All of you were there just to be with me, even though you weren't actually physically there. And, there is huge connection and huge community. And that's why I want to do it. I want to do it because I remember when this person lost their hair from that palliative chemo, they said it happened one afternoon. It's like suddenly they stopped and they could suddenly feel all their hair follicles open and just be aware of the fact that they were going to lose their hair. And sure enough, they lost their hair that afternoon when it literally started to come out in clumps. And they were treated very differently after that. So I'm going to braid the shave. So if you can give 50p, 20p, however much, it would be truly appreciated. And I also appreciate everyone that's contributed so far. Thank you.